know, in the Intellectual Chocolate series, I like to talk to really smart chocolate people that are doing amazing things. And one of the smartest and one of the chocolatest and one of the coolest people I know is Dr. Asha Terry, and Asha Tari, Tarry. And she is she does a lot of things. I want to say that she's a licensed social worker, but because I did not get her full bio before, I'm going to let her tell me where I missed the mark. So first of all, how are you doing today, Dr. Terry?
I'm wonderful and smiling because you always call me Dr. Terry, and I always say in return that I'm not a doctor.
And I keep wanting to call you Dr. Terry. Yeah, you know, for me, it's like when in doubt, I'll go ahead and give it to you.
I appreciate that.
And you know what's really cool about you is the fact that you will correct me. I've had people. I know one person. I'm not gonna say his name, but for the longest time I was calling him doctor, and he never corrected me. You know, and I didn't find out till years later that he never had a doctorate. He's never a doctor. And I'm like, why did he tell me? But then again, maybe it's my fault because I should have probably did my research before I started running my mouth anyway. So anyway, Asha, how are you today, and how are things in New York City?
Everything is good. New York is beautiful today. It's windy a little bit, but it's a good day. I'm feeling good.
All right. And I know that you have a practice in New York. Do you want to state the name of the practice? Just so
Sure. I own Behavioral Health Consulting Services. It's a psychotherapy, life coaching practice, and we're based in Midtown Manhattan, so we're right in the hub of New York City on 34th Street. But I also have the great fortune of doing remote therapy. So just like this, I can talk to clients via a video screen, and we can have confidential sessions. Some people also do phone therapy with me too, but those people are usually much farther along in their treatment. Those are not my new clients. So yeah, I've been in private practice now for 4 years this past April, and I've been doing mental health counseling for 18 years this year.
Wow. So you're deep in the game. I love it. And I got the part right about you being a licensed social worker, correct?
Yeah, exactly. That was my clinical training, social work.
Okay, I just want to make sure. And that's for everybody who's watching. That's a really big deal. Social workers that I know anyway. I know a lot of them because I date one. They're very, very, very serious about having that license and those credentials. I tell me if I'm wrong. I mean, you know, when you have people that sort of pretend to be social workers or pretend to be therapists, but they're not, they don't have the proper credentials. It seems like that kind of pisses off a lot of people that actually have the credentials. Is that accurate?
No, that's accurate. Beyond pissing us off, it's more about a legal issue. Mm-hmm. New York State especially has been one of the states that has pushed this to the forefront, where not only can people who are not clinical people, meaning they have the training, experience, and degree and license to diagnose and treat people, calling themselves whatever, licensed mental health counselor, social worker, psychologist, you cannot be considered in that tier without a license. But you might do social service work, and that could be a case manager, for example. That person doesn't have to have a master's degree or a license. They might have a bachelor's degree. So it really depends on educational level and licensure. So it's not just about us being offended, it's about legality. And if you're serving the public ethically, you should not be calling yourself something that you're not. So if you're not a social worker, then don't say that you're a social worker, say you're a case manager if that's what you do. If you're a clinician, someone who treats and practices mental health, then you can call yourself that. But if you're not, then you have to use whatever credentials your license states and call yourself what it is.
So just be honest, quit lying, don't be out here lying.
Yes.
And pretending, because you know that's really true. You got a lot of people out here pretending to be all different kinds of things. You know, people. I think, for example, the PhD is an often counterfeited credential. A lot of people call themselves doctor this, doctor that, and they're not doctor anything. They're not a medical doctor, not a real PhD. Maybe they went to a 6-week program or something like that. And I think it is important to kind of know the difference, because I know.
That's shade, Dr. Boyce?
Wait, say it again. Did you shade?
Is that shade you throwing at people?
Let me see. I don't know. Is that my arm cocking back? and throwing the shake, the Colin Kaepernick. Is that what I'm doing?
I've
Yeah,
heard you say that before too. You're a PhD, and yes, you're right. We know some PhD-esque wannabes out there, but they
you
should
know
not be
what?
calling themselves that.
Check it out. Check it out. I am not pointing to any one particular person. Yeah, and I know which person some people might think I was thinking about, and
Uh-huh.
I really wasn't thinking about
No.
him. Although I think about this person more when I think about mental health issues in the Black community, like mental illness on full display. That part I ain't gonna hold back. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm talking about a little bit of narcissism, a little bit of anger management, a little bit of inability to control impulse control. I think that's what the term
Yes.
might be. Yeah, and the list goes on and on and on. Perhaps even what's the word? Pathological liar. That term comes to
Mm.
mind. Possibly,
Okay.
but I'm not sure. But anyway, I'm not gonna talk. I ain't throwing. We ain't here to throw shade.
We're not going to do that tonight.
I'm not throwing shade today. I'm gonna throw
No.
sunshine, and I'm
Oh,
gonna
I
throw
like that.
spotlight. There you go. I'm gonna throw sunshine and spotlight on you, because we ain't here to talk about what's dark about the community. We're here to talk about where the light's at. And I'm gonna tell you what. I want everybody to just know this, because I believe this. If you want to really follow somebody online that really represents the light of our community in terms of smart people that are giving smart advice and helping lots of people, follow Asha Tari Mental. It's not Terry, it's Tari, Tarry. Asha Tari Mental. That's her name on Instagram. So go to @Asha Mental, and you can follow her posts. Because I'll say this, I love what you put on Instagram. Like the stuff you
Thank
put up,
you.
it's beneficial, it's productive, it's informative. What makes you I know a lot of people who do what you do who don't really want to be sort of seen like that, who don't want to be out in public. What do your colleagues kind of think, like when they sort of see you, doing your thing on Instagram and on social media? I mean, that's not for the faint of heart.
A lot of my colleagues, I don't think even have time to pay attention to what I'm doing on social media. I don't have a lot of time to pay attention to what most people are doing on social media. I'm fortunate enough that I get to manage my Asha Tari mental page at times, but I also have a social media manager that manages our social media accounts because typically psychotherapists are not marketing people. They don't care about marketing their services in that kind of aggressive way that we do now on social media. They're not trained. It's not something we went to school to learn to do. And a lot of my colleagues that I've talked to over the years, a couple of years ago, were very apprehensive about putting their name or face in anything that was on social media. So I still have colleagues, young colleagues, that are not on Facebook, they're not on Twitter, they're not on Instagram. At best, they might have a LinkedIn account that they don't check. It's just kind of a placement holder. But there are other people who are helpers in other types of healing industry that are on social media from time to time, but it's not a thing that a lot of people are really that into. I do it because online, what you see is really a part of my coaching brand. And I've had coaching clients across waters. So I've had overseas people contact me because they found me on Google and my Google's attached to my social media. So it's helped me grow my work. It's given people the opportunity, like even yourself, to know what I talk about, to get a little bit of a feel for my aesthetic and my verse. And that has helped in terms of my brand. But I would say most people could care less about being on social media, especially as mental health clinicians. It's grown a lot. So I meet a lot of people now who are doing it, but it wasn't really what most of us were very well versed in initially when we got into private practice.
Well, you know what? By the way, everybody who just came in, I'm talking to Asha Tari. She's the CEO of Behavioral. Are you the CEO? Is that
I
correct?
am.
The
Mm-hmm.
CEO of Behavioral Health Consulting Services out of New York. And one of the things I can tell you, Asha, is that I know a lot of professionals who do what you do. I know a lot of therapists and social workers and stuff like that. And, I'm really fascinated or really surprised that more of them don't open their minds to social media. Especially, I'm thinking mostly about my colleagues, maybe in academia, who are, sitting in some university behind some, dusty academic walls doing really important work that nobody knows about. and it's almost like they're just afraid, like they don't understand it. Maybe it's too unorthodox, or it's beneath them, and I don't understand it. I mean, I can tell you, being a professor on social media opened up so many doors for me that I did not have when I was in academia, when I was working for somebody else. And I would imagine that if you are a licensed therapist and you're seeing clients, getting on social media, if used appropriately, it seems like that can really expand your business and your opportunity set. So I want to ask you this: how do you compare, sort of the public persona that you have, and the public work and doing, life coaching and kind of expanding your brand in that way, versus, say, the other life where you're, say, a licensed therapist and you're working for some company and you're seeing the clients that they provide to you? What are the benefits of this life versus the other life?
Autonomy. It's that simple. I have the autonomy to say what is valuable to my audience on social media, also without fear of retaliation. I have a colleague who works for a major hospital right here in New York City. When I wanted to interview her on my podcast, she needed to have a lot of information, understandably so, because she had to be careful of what she spoke about on the show. At the same time, she had to get clearance from her job if she was coming on to represent the organization that she worked for. I don't have that same conflict. I'm the owner and sole proprietor of Behavioral Health Consulting Services. Under that, there are the divisions of life coaching, consulting, and social justice advocacy. So I determine what we talk about. I talk to my team about what we're going to push on our social justice page, Black People Heal. And the conflict really is the way I was trained versus the way now the systems that are allowing me to get clients kind of train me to do this. Because I just did a video last night, really late here in the office, talking to my audience about how much of my life I did not share. I used to not even have my face on social media for a lot of reasons when I got started. And I was working for someone then, but I was building out my own private practice at the same time. As I grew, it took a long time. Even you've seen me now recently just doing videos. I would not do a video to save my life. If someone told me this is going to save your life, Asha, do this video, I would just be so afraid to go online and talk about something that I could talk about comfortably out of fear of this weirdness of talking into a camera and not knowing who's on the other side of the lens in terms of watching me and listening to me. But I've had a business mind since I was a very young child. My father was the one who said to me when I was a kid that I should be a business person when I grow up. He didn't say you should be a nurse, which is what I actually thought I was going to be and what I initially went to school for. He said, you have the mind of a businesswoman. I think you should own a business. And I was like, never thought I would have a business like this. Now I see the benefits, but I also had expertise through people I hired advising me about the importance of social media, going online, posting videos, posting photos. For a long time, I didn't post pictures of me. Now you can see me doing selfies every other day. It's just ridiculous. And it's mostly because when I post content by other people, even if it's just a snapshot of the sunshine, it doesn't get as many following as we do get when I post a video or a picture of myself. And I usually have a message that's motivational or inspirational attached to it, so that I'm not just posting videos and pictures of stuff that make no sense, but it's always intentional. There's always a purpose behind what I'm posting and why I'm posting. And that's the real difference between working for someone else and working for myself.
Well, I agree with you. I think everybody who's listening, who is a professional at something, if you're not looking into social media, a digital presence, etc. I mean, it's just real hard to have a business without marketing. And
it really is.
Right, digital technology is the best way to market, and it's huge. It makes a big difference, and we're pretty good at it, at the Black Business School. So anybody who's watching, consider joining us at theblackbusinessschool.com. We actually have a program. I think it's something like how to build $1 million brand or something. It's all about branding and presence and how to let people know who you are. And I had some experts to help me on it, but I chimed in a lot, and because because the proof is in the potato salad, right? I was able to do it and get it done and get out there. And for me, it was all about that autonomy you talk about, where my thought was, I got to build my own space that's going to be kind of mine. And technology lets us do that. And it lets you be a better professional because you're not getting bogged down by somebody else's bureaucracy. If I get bogged down by bullshit, it better be my bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
It better not be that white man's bullshit that I'm working for or whatever. Like I don't want his bullshit. It better be my bullshit, right? Even my bullshit is bad enough, but if it's somebody else's shit, I can't. That's too much. So everybody out who's thinking about it, consider trying it. Again, join us at theblackbusinessschool.com. We can show you all this stuff and how all this works and how to brand yourself, how to get out there. In fact, I was actually thinking, Asha, about literally doing some special program just for professionals, just for scholars and therapists and lawyers, and because I get approached by all these people all the time. And I'm like, yeah, you got a lot of talent. You got a great brand, and what you're saying makes a lot of sense. But you got to make sure people can hear you, and there's a way to do it. And I think it's a winning strategy long term. Now, let
And
me
if I
ask
could
you.
chime in for a second, if that's okay.
Yes.
I do see a lot of professionals now on here doing this work. There are a lot more people I see in mental health on social media than ever before. So that's how I can have such a far reach to my community, because I have people on social media I found, especially on Instagram, that are psychotherapists, family therapists, marriage and family therapists, because they're posting their page, they're posting their content on there. So it's growing, but I still meet those people from my generation and also the next generation that are fearful of going on social media. Plus, it's time consuming. It's like anything else. When people come to me asking me sometimes to do things, I can't stop my day to do it because of the time of work, the time that I'm working with my clients. So it's very challenging to pull from different areas of your life when you're doing so much work. But for me, this is really about creating a footprint. So when I thought about, okay, if I do something now, what's the impact 2 years from now, 5 years from now, that someone's going to probably Google me and find me or look me up on YouTube and see a video. The interview you did with me last spring, Boyce, people still reach out now and tell me, I found you because I saw you on Dr. Boyce's show. It's astonishing. That's the kind of imprint that I'm working on making so that people can remember what we've been doing, and this is the best way to do it.
Yeah, well, we need the smart people like you making the imprint, because you're not just smart, but you're promoting something that's healthy and positive, and teaching Black people how to love ourselves and love each other and to build. And and it's just unfortunate that the predominant message is one that's very destructive. It's even in the music, when and I know that's a whole nother conversation. We're actually going to talk about the whole interracial dating thing. We're going to get to that in a second. But even in the music, if you listen, for example, to Cardi B's lyrics, just I'm not picking on her, just picking her out. Her song about the red bottoms, like these are blood shoes. It literally starts off with like lyrics like, who you effing with, I'ma F you up, I don't F with you, like let's just destroy each other, let's destroy relationships, I don't even like you, you know what I mean? And I'm just kind of like, I'm not a psychologist, but there's got to be something unhealthy about this idea of Black people attacking each other just because we looked at each other funny, and this is what's being promoted in mass media. And I can't say that, so I look at that and I compare it to the messages that come from you. The messages that come from you seem to be messages that promote building relationships as opposed to destroying, lifting each other up as opposed to tearing each other down, elevating who you are as opposed to believing that you're just worthless because you're Black or whatever, setting goals, going for something in life as opposed to settling for what you got, and it's kind of interesting to me that, I know you have your followers on social media, but I see people that have nothing to say, nothing good to say, that have an enormous number
of following.
Yeah, and I think that that's just fundamentally tragic.
It is. And it's not unusual to our communities, unfortunately. We have so many detractors, I call them, that are very skilled at taking people's way of thinking of self-empowerment and ripping it to minor shreds so that folks actually feel more powerful when they tear someone else down as opposed to uplifting somebody. It's tragic. It's a psychology of craziness. And I think it's hard to combat it when more people don't know who they are than those of us who are quote unquote woke, whatever that term is about that I can't stand. But yeah,
Interesting.
it's easy.
Well, you know, everybody, by the way, if you just came in, I'm talking to Asha Tari. Asha is the founder and CEO of Behavioral Health Consulting Services. She's a licensed therapist. She also is a life coach and does a lot of really great stuff. If you want to follow her on Instagram, please go follow her. I'm going to spell it out for you. Asha Tari Mental. That's Asha, A-S-H-A, Tari, T-A-T-A-R-R-Y, not Terry, Tari. Mental, Asha Tari Mental. Follow her on Instagram. She definitely needs to be the person you follow. Not, you know, I mean, if you're gonna follow Cardi B, go follow Cardi B, but follow Asha, you know, so you can get the antidote to all the crazy negative energy that you're gonna absorb by listening to destructive messages all over social media. All right, so let me ask you about this, Asha. So you and I were talking earlier. We were having a real candid conversation before. You know, I sometimes wish people could hear the conversations I get to have with smart people like you before the interview starts. You know, because that's where we were really talking about the really good stuff. And a topic that came up was, you know, interracial dating, and all the Hollywood celebrities that, you know, especially, you know, a lot of these dudes that are that on one hand, they're very conscious, they're very woke, you know, they got this message of wokeness. But then you'll see them, you know, dating, you know, Sally. They're not dating Shaquanda, they're dating Sally, right? And you know, and then, you know, they'll divorce Sally, and then after they divorce Sally, they'll start dating Becky, and you know, and then after, you know, Becky's gone, they're dating, you know, Susie, right? And well, just you just sit there and just give me like 10-15 seconds and I'll be right back. It's usually switching Wi-Fi. You got kids in the house that play video games, they eat up the bandwidth, and then crazy stuff happens. So so don't panic. I meant to tell you that.
I'm used to it. It's good. No problem.
Okay, and everybody watching, same thing. If I go out, don't go nowhere. I'm coming back. I'm not gonna leave you stranded. Just give me like 2 minutes or something like that. But it usually takes me 30 seconds to come back. But you know, you got Donald Glover, you know, who did Welcome to America, Key and Peele. I think both of those guys are married to white women. In fact, one of them divorced a white woman and married another white woman. The guy that made the movie Get Out, I don't know if that's Key or Peele. He makes this great conscious movie, but then, you know, he's showing up with Becky at the Oscars, right? Michael B. Jordan, probably the #1 sex symbol of all of Black Hollywood right now, because after Black Panther, you know, and he's got this sort of track record with the white women. And I keep one on the list. Taye Diggs. I think Jamie Foxx is dating Katie Holmes. Jesse Williams. That was a big surprise. Excuse me, Jesse, you know, got a lot of flack for the fact that he had this Black woman who was with him, stood by him when he was broke, back when he was like a school teacher, you know, like, you know, 12 years, something like that. And then he becomes the hottest thing in Hollywood. And I don't know if this was true in Page Six or not. So it's you know, take it with a grain of salt, but we know the ultimate, we know what he said and we know what happened. He divorces the Black wife, and the story, according to Page Six, and his friends, was that he wanted to be the hot single guy in Hollywood. So next thing you know, he's got a white woman on his arm. And I heard a Black woman told me, she said, I love Jesse Williams. I really thought he was the hottest thing in the world. I had his picture up on my wall after that BET speech. And when I heard that story, she said, I took his picture off the wall and ripped it up. Okay. And, you know, and that made me think that perhaps there are some women that are just not happy with that. Like they're maybe confused by that. What do you think? I mean, do you think that sisters should be insulted by what they're seeing, or do you think it's not a big deal?
No, I think it's a very big deal, but I can't control what other people feel. I can only control what I feel. And what we were talking about offline, just a little to share some of that with the audience here, is when I was a kid growing up, I used to admire people in the community who were social activists like Sidney Poitier, Harry Belafonte, the work of course, Ruby and ACD, James Earl Jones. 3 out of those 4 men are married to white women and have been married to a couple of white women over the course of their career. It was shocking when I was a kid. It's not so shocking anymore. So when we see people like Glover, who put out the video, This is America, and people were all excited about it, and the messaging, the imagery, and all the content that we decoded from the video, and then a couple of days later, I actually think it was Cleo Monago, who I saw post something on social media that he found out that Glover's wife was white. And I just smiled and shook my head, because that has been so prevalent in our community since the beginning of whatever we think social justice activism looks like. Should people of color, women, Black women, be offended? That's for them to decide. I was always offended when I saw Black men with white women who were in these civil duty committed stances that they took in our community. And not that people can't fall in love with someone of another race, they absolutely can. I mean, that's happened many times in my own family. However, it always feels like the gold at the end of the track run is for you to get a white woman once you get to a certain status in your career. Is it the opposite with Black women and white men? I've seen that too. Alfre Woodard is married to a white man. The young woman who was in A Raisin in the Sun, I can't think, Audrey McDonald, she's married to a white man. I think Tandy Newton, who's biracial, is married to a white man. The list does go on and on. So we have all these different activists that are married to people outside of their race. To me, that's dissonant, don't you think?
I think it's definitely dissonance. You mean the dissonance of say that one more time.
I think it's dissonant to say that you believe in a commitment to our people's social, financial, psychological empowerment and upliftment of Black people, and then you marry someone who's from a different race than you.
You know what it makes me think about? It's almost like somebody, saying, I care about Black people, but I really wouldn't want to live in a Black neighborhood. Or I want to save the public schools for the inner city kids, but I'm going to send my kids to private school. Right? Like I care about your struggle, but I don't want to really be in it with you. That's what I really get. You know what I mean? Because when you marry into a certain race, and marriage is important. There are Jewish people that die all the time and put in their will that my child will only get my money if they marry a person where both of their parents are Jewish. It's stated all the time, and it's allowed because of freedom of religion and all that. You can't do that with race, but you can do that with religion. I think that there is some strange dissonance there, and it confuses a lot of people. And I think about what drove my sensitivity to the issue. I wasn't sensitive to the issue until I was 15 or 16, because I that was the only time in my life I ever dated a white girl or thought about it. And it wasn't even a real relationship. I was 15. I mean, I wasn't having sex or nothing. I mean, I wanted to. I just couldn't find anybody to do it with me. But I'm dating this white girl, and she, I think after about a week and a half, it was kind of over because her daddy didn't want her dating a Black person. And I remember being upset, and I told my mother about it, and my mother kind of schooled me a little bit. My mother just kind of told me that, she says really hard for according to her, she says hard for Black women to find, a certain kind of man. And so, I think she was kind of implying like why you should like Black women, you should want to be with a Black woman. And I was already attracted to Black women, so it wasn't hard. But that really let me know that the great sacrifice, or not even sacrifice, the investment in my community, that emotional investment in Black women was really important. Because I know a lot of women who, if they found the right guy, would be very happy to be married So I was like, well, the least I can do is if I got married, marry a black woman, right? I'm not married yet. I deliberately waited for various reasons, but I'm gonna get married, and when I get married, you will not see me walking down the aisle with Becky, Sally, or Polly, or Peggy. None of that. You will not see me in a scandal with Becky, Sally, Polly, or Peggy. None of that. And so I think it's okay to think that way, because there are people, and I want to ask you about this. What do you think about those people who say, look, you can't control who you fall in love with. It's up to the gods, the love gods, to decide who you're with. So we're being too harsh by even talking about this topic.
I'm on the fence about it, honestly speaking. I have, like you, playfully considered being in relationships with people of other races. When I was a kid, one of my boyfriends, if you want to call him that, in school was a white boy. I mean, we went kind of far with it, because at the time, I think we even drew up this marriage contract. We were pretending to get married. It was this whole psychodrama on our campus, and we had our friends around. We actually got in trouble for it. I was in a prestigious Catholic school, and we took the Bible out, and we had someone in our little circle of friends officiate our marriage, and we got in so much trouble for it. And I was a white boy, and I was the first person of color in that school to even consider dating a white kid, and probably was the first black kid to have been considered by a white kid to even be of interest, because back then, this is in the 90s, even little white kids who went to school with brown and black kids were apprehensive about taking one of us home. We had to be a friend, and we had to be one of many friends to even get invited to their house when they had a party for their birthday, or there was a special occasion like graduation. But as an adult, I've definitely dated people of other ethnic groups, and I went out on a date with a white guy probably in my early 30s or late 20s. But I was a little bit apprehensive when it came to the end of the date, and he walked me to a cab and tried to kiss me, and all I could think about was, all these black people out here gonna see me kissing this white guy. I'm gonna get in so much trouble when I gotta walk home, because they're gonna be looking at me like, really, sis, you were dating that white guy? But we never went out on another date again, and that didn't have anything to do with race or religion, but for other circumstances, we just didn't go out on a date again. I would say this to you boys, in all seriousness, the more I got involved in my own awakening to myself as the person that I am becoming, the woman I am today, the person that's giving back to communities of color, like you see on social media, the less interested I am in going outside of my community to even scout potential people. Because I do have a sense, and I don't know if this is a good or bad thing, obligation, I would call it, to stay within my own community. I feel as if people who are in the movement towards social freedom are here to liberate our people, and then go outside of the race and date someone who's not a part of the race, even if they're not an ally, have some kind of issue with their primary caretaker that they haven't worked out, and therefore their dissonance shows up in their primal relationships, i.e. romanticism. Yeah.
Well, you're a mental health professional, and I want to ask you this. And you're the mental health professional. I am not, but I'm going to ask you a question and you can tell me where this fits in the whole spectrum of mental health issues. I personally think that if you are a person who just dates the rainbow, and every now and then a white boy drops through, or white woman, whatever, and every now and then the person's Asian, every now and then the person's black. That's not my preference, but that's okay. You just meet people, you like them, and it happens, right? But if you're a person that has a long trail of Beckys that's like 100 miles long, like literally, it's like which white woman is replacing the white woman before the white woman that you just were with. That to me, I look at that almost like a mental illness. I mean, now if you're biracial and your mom was white, then it makes sense to me, right? Because of the whole, not Oedipus, but you know what I mean? The whole, like, we're attracted to the person who reminds us of our opposite sex parent type of thing. Because, I mean, literally, it's so funny. I found this in myself. My significant other took a picture with my mom, and her mother said, "You look more like her than you look like me." You know, and that's when it hit me like, oh my God, I'm doing all this subconscious stuff. And I was like, wait a minute, my mother's a social worker. She is too. Holy crap, right? So it kind of hit me. But so that's understandable. But to me, if you are a brother and you got a black mama, you know, and black sisters and black, you know, grandma and all of that, and you don't want to go near a black woman, something's wrong with you. I think that means you crazy. Like you really need to go see Asha Tari because you need some mental help. What do you think about that, Asha?
I agree. I have people I've worked with that are from the diaspora. You know, this is people who are either African, African American, or Latino. And I have found that some men of color have come into my office discussing their romantic lives with me and have serious issue with, give me one second, somebody's calling, that's pretty important. But I've seen them have serious issue with dating within their race. I've seen them have significant anger and resistance to dating within their race, which to me is a psychological conflict. And it's something that we talk about and we try to work through in therapy. So when we see all of these people in the media, all these celebs that have relationships with people of another race, like I said, I think it's the goal at the end of the finish line for them. They've made it to a certain stature, and now it's like, here, we're handing you off your white woman. But again, people have a right to decide for themselves, don't they, who they want to be with and how they want to love. Absolutely. I come from one of those families that have lots of different ethnic groups mixed in. But at the same time, is that the path for me or for people in my generation to take? It's a personal choice, but I definitely have seen it show up as a psychological conflict.
You know what I think? You know, here's one thing I was processing with somebody the other day. We were kind of like, you know, going through our basket of Negro conspiracy theories. And because we love it, right? We you know, we just, it's just fun. And one of the things that we thought about is that, you know, I would imagine that for some of these people, that, you know, the celebrities that, you know, are constantly hanging out with the white women and all this stuff, I think for some of them, I wonder if being with a white person is like a come up for them professionally. You know, like I'll tell you, I've noticed this actually on the black female side. There was a black woman who they mentioned who was the head of NBC or whatever network, ABC, who cut the Roseanne show off. You remember that story where they were talking about this black one, this high-powered exec who made this move? And I said to myself in my head, I said, boys, because I talk to myself. If y'all don't know I'm crazy by now, just know I'm gonna be next on Asha's couch, like, because I need the therapy too. But so I said, boys, I bet you that this woman with all this power, this network, is married to a white man. So I looked her up. I Googled her name and husband. Boom, there she is at some award show with a white man. And then there was another lady who just took over as one of the head people at, I want to say it's Starbucks, but it might be another company. But anyway, she was the one that's married to George Lucas, right? And being married to George Lucas, we know that's a come up, right? And then you know, and then you see the others, you know, you see, you know, like some of the, like Eve and Janet Jackson, they got with the guys who, you know, when, you know, I think Janet married the guy in the other country, and right. Eve married the wealthy British. So I almost feel like sometimes there are people who, black, you know, male and female, who feel that, you know, like that dating black is like sort of, it's not interesting because there's nothing exotic. Like, oh yeah, these are the women, these are the men that I see every day. Also, maybe they feel that dating black is like slumming it. Like, you know, like your sister that's like, look, I'm an executive. I want to do well. These brothers out here, they ain't got nothing going on. Let me go ahead and get with this British guy and, you know, and have a different life, right? Do you think that that's the case for some of them, that maybe, you know, interracial dating is a status and professional achievement for them?
If we're talking about the entertainment industry, that's mostly cultivated, in my opinion. I think, one, we have a lot of people that reach a certain height in the entertainment industry that have a lot of people with influence over their decision making. So there's a team of people that's working towards putting people together for imagery, for photographs, for opportunities to create a storyline. And at the same time, I think we don't really know all the ins and outs that go to that. When you start looking at they're marrying these people, yeah, I think a lot of it is when you're of a certain stature, the perception in those groups is that you can't have someone that there can't be an exciting story about associated with you. So we got to clear all the clutter of the friends and the homies and the black girls with the black affiliated names. So we're going to get you someone that's going to have a look that's appealing and crossover appeal for this industry that's all about aesthetics and how we present ourselves. But if you're talking about in more average communities, research has actually proven that higher income earners and black men marry professional black women. That was actually a study that was posted on social media about 4 or 5 months ago, and it's been circulating the internet on a regular basis. So the myth of us not marrying us is, of course, a myth, but more high earning income generators marry other high income earning generators in the same rate.
Oh, yeah, I agree with you. I'm familiar with that study and I believe it. You know, most of the guys I know are married to black women. You know, they probably, I don't know, they probably wouldn't even invite me to their house if they had a white person there. You know, they'd be scared I'd say the wrong thing. I don't know how to be on my best behavior around white people anymore. I'm no longer tameable. But you know, I do know that I think you're correct on that. I think that what I see though is that Hollywood is kind of just on some old other stuff, right? You know, I think Hollywood entertainers, they're just a little bit different. And I remember being kind of shocked when I was in Los Angeles, and a guy that worked at a nightclub, he told me that that they had told them not to let the black girls in. They said the black girls are not, you know, they're not allowed in because they're loud and they're rude and they, you know, they you know, whatever. And I couldn't believe it, you know, but he said that was kind of their policy. So I almost feel that maybe on the West Coast, where these actors and whatever entertainers live, it's just a different culture. I remember meeting some black women there, a few of them who told me that, yeah, a lot of these guys, they don't want to date black women. They want to date all this other stuff, but they don't want to. And I don't know. I'm just, it just offends me. Let me ask you this question. As a black woman, you know, you're not married, correct?
No, I'm not married.
Okay. And you know, so as a black woman who might date from time to time, who's professional, who's got a lot going on, you got your business, which people should know it. It's Behaviors Health Consulting Services. I want to state the name of your business so people know where they can support you. You know, what's dating like for you as a you know, as a woman who has actually a couple of things I think that make you stand out. One, you're really in tune with mental health. So, you know, I think dating a person who's at least trying to be healthy and can identify mental illness is very different from dating just like a mere mortal, a regular person. And then two, you know, you're not an employee, you're the boss, you're the CEO. So you have these people that you tell what to do. Some people are intimidated by that. You know, how does that work for you? What's that life like for you, if I may ask?
It's an obstacle course. It is. I have been in several long-term relationships, and I've been in a couple of very brief stints with people I've gone out on a few dates with for a few months that didn't last very long since I've owned my own business. And the challenges that I have come up with, let me start with the positive sides of dating as a woman who owns a business. Because I think people do hear a lot of challenges about it. They don't hear as many things that are hopeful for people who are dating or want to date that run a business or are building a business. It still can be fun, you know. It's nice sometimes to break the monotony of working and doing media and promoting your business and trying to get clients to go out and just feel like a woman, have a good time, let your hair down, so to speak, and enjoy the company of someone that you're interested in, whether that's male or female. But, and at the same time, it's really exciting to be around other women professionals too, who might share different tips about how they meet people or where they go to meet people. a couple things that happen as you get older, whether you're in your mid or late 30s. So if you're someone who might be, let's say, 35 and up, you probably aren't going to the same places that someone 21 to 30 is going to. So then that starts to pose the question to you, where do you go to meet people? Where do you go to meet professional people? Where do you go to meet interesting people, smart people, people who have their own life going on, right? They're not living at home. They're not trying to pay off debt and they're stuck in debt. They don't have a bunch of children already, or they're not already married, right? Because you got all those different challenges too. So the pool gets smaller. The places you network get more unique or become more unique. And that's why I think dating online has been the go-to place for a lot of professionals too. I've heard a lot of professionals going on to these quote unquote professional dating sites to meet other professional people, because it's difficult when you're doing a lot and you're busy. For me personally, I don't spend a lot of time with too many people in my personal life because I do so many different things that you've mentioned. I'm always growing. I train as a clinician in terms of building out my work, and I travel a lot because I'm also a caretaker. So I have a couple of aging relatives that I travel to do respite care with several times a month. And then add on to that, I'm a mentor and I have family locally that I don't even see as much. So my window of opportunity really is so narrow that if I'm going to date, it's really selective, because I have to be around people to begin with that understand, which does not happen. They say they do a lot of times in the beginning. This is the challenge. They understand what it's like to be enthralled by your work and have opportunities like this to do media. So that might happen, spur of the moment. It might happen, on the calendar far out, but it might take me away from them. And if you don't have a person that is interested in dating you with a full life of their own, the challenges you deal with, envy or jealousy or feeling that they're being left behind. So I have met really great men who have awesome careers and are really smart. And initially, they're impressed by me owning my own business. But then when they see me at 8:30 at night having to go into a client session, or 10 p.m. being really tired and I can't get up and cook dinner, or some days I just don't want to go out, or other times I may have to get on the road and travel for respite family care or for a business opportunity, and they're not able to come along with me, then we face those kinds of challenges of what I mentioned earlier.
Wow. Well, by the way, everybody, I want you guys to know who I'm talking to. I'm talking to Asha Tari. Asha Tari is a licensed social worker and a therapist, as well as a life coach. And her business is called Behavioral Health Consulting Services in New York. If you should follow her on Instagram. Her Instagram is really good. It's Asha Tari Mental, Tarry, not Te, not Terry. It's Tari. Asha Tari Mental. So everybody go follow her on Instagram. Let's do a mob on her Instagram account, because watching the videos and the content she puts up will make you healthy and happy and everything else. And I want to also remind everybody that the All Black National Convention is taking place in Philadelphia. If you haven't gone to the All Black National Convention before, you will love it. It is literally the gathering spot for awesome Black people, smart Black people that are progressive, Black people that want to build, Black people that have good families or want to make a better family. This is your family, actually. And we show Black movies. We have panel discussions. We have networking sessions. We have trainings on how to start a business, how to invest in the stock market, how to get in crypto, how to do anything you want. And so you should come to the All Black National Convention. Mark it on your calendar. The URL is allblacknationalconvention.com. That's allblacknationalconvention.com. So, one thing you said, Asha, that was really interesting is, you talked about this whole piece about being really busy, and I've seen that too. I think, like people always ask me, like I just got it so often where people thought I was like a marriage phobe. Like I just like, oh, you're just too scared to get married. You're too scared. And I was like, no, I'm not scared to get married. I just think carefully about every decision I make, because most of my friends, I said, first of all, most of my friends are divorced, and and then some of those friends that are still married, I know that their marriages are pretty much walking dead. So marriage, maintaining a good marriage is really hard work. I encourage anybody who gets married, get some therapy, get some help, get somebody to help you get over your shit. Because you can't have your shit and the other person's shit all in the same pile, because then you just have a big pile of shit and a big shitty marriage. So don't have a shitty marriage. Have somebody help you work out your shit and work out their shit, so there won't be no shit. All right. So anyway, so that was the first thought, right? That, I would tell people, like I said, look, it's not that I wouldn't get married. I just think about it very carefully, and the divorce rate's really high, and people are going broke. The average divorcee's wealth level drops by 70% when they go through the divorce, because the lawyers take up all the money, and I said, so that's why I think about it carefully. But then the second thing was, I said, I had to be thoughtful about it because I don't have a normal life. I've never had a normal life. When I was in school, I would study. When I was in grad school, I would easily study 8-9 hours a day, 7 days a week, and then do it again the next week. There wasn't no oh yeah, I'm just going to take 2-3 days and just do nothing. I didn't know what that meant, because I was literally swimming with water up to my nose in my PhD program, feeling like if I stop studying, my whole career is going to die. So I was literally in that fight or flight mode for years and years. So, so that didn't lend itself well to a relationship. And then when I became a professor, that energy level it's like being a Navy SEAL. You're trained to get up at 4:30 in the morning as a Navy SEAL. You're always going to do that, right? So I just kept on working like that. So it was like writing the books and trying to build my career and doing interviews and traveling and blah, 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 blah. And then all the ups and downs that came with being an entrepreneur. Economically, yeah, I was doing okay. I was making good money as a professor at Syracuse. I was making $115,000 a year, which was a pretty good amount of money for a single black man, 31 years old, 32, whatever. The problem was that I was also trying to build this business thing that had a lot of risks that came with it, a lot of long hours, a lot of things I invested in that did not work out, and a lot of times where I would be flat broke because I put everything into the business and it just wouldn't pop. And I was like, I don't really want to put somebody through this, but I didn't want someone putting me through guilt of, well, now the kids can't get, shoes for school because your dumbass done went out and spent all the rent money, right? I didn't want to have those kinds of arguments. So I kind of felt like, okay, maybe later, once I get this set up and get it going and I'm ready, that's when I'll be prepared to kind of do what I'm going to do with that. But I think, the interesting thing that happened then, this is me telling my story because it links back to yours, is I then got to the point where it was like, as you mentioned, hard to meet people, right? It was like, when you're kind of in this rare space, you don't always get a chance to meet the kinds of people that you could most likely connect to. And then, and you can't do basic things anymore when you're public. Like I couldn't go on Match.com and meet somebody because there's a chance that they might know who I was, and it would be kind of embarrassing, kind of weird, and so anyway, I mean, eventually it all worked out. I mean, there were benefits to it, like I did actually meet really high quality women that would just kind of, come to me or introduce themselves because of how they think, which meant that I didn't have to figure out if you were a conscious woman or intelligent, because chances are typically only conscious, intelligent women pay attention to me. The dumb women ignore me. They just laugh at me. They think I'm stupid. They think I'm a nerd. But the conscious, intelligent women pay attention. So that's one thing that made it easier. But I will say to you that, everything you say about, the difficulties of having a public life or being extremely busy or having somebody feel like they're left behind, those things can happen across both genders. But I imagine it's like triple when you're a woman doing that. Like I think it takes a lot for a man to kind of sit to the side and have a woman that's sort of like, well, I can't cook for you because I'm over here doing this. Do you have any advice for women that are kind of high flying, kind of doing their thing and looking for love at the same time and trying to figure it all out? Like, what have you kind of learned from your journey?
I would give them the same advice I'd give myself. Date as many people as you want to date. And people have different beliefs around what dating entails. If you're dating for sex, that's your choice. That's one thing. If you're dating for occasional companionship, I remember my aunt who had a very interesting life. She's still around, but she's incapacitated. She had a very fascinating, very full single life, never married, and she's almost 90 years old as of next week. She would have a friend, she called him, that from time to time they would just do friend-like things together. And I'm not talking about sex or any of that, and that's good too, But if she had a special event to attend, he was her escort. If she wanted to attend some special gala that he was a part of, she was his escort. They used to travel together. They were introduced to each other's families. And so it depends on what you're dating for. I think a lot of women, different from men going to dating for a purpose. But the purpose is specific to marriage. And I tell people, even my clients, coaching clients, therapy clients, go into dating with less of a purpose in that specific kind of arena. Go into it open to meeting people. And I think if you go into relationships being open to meeting people, you actually meet more interesting people. You also get to select from that pool of people who stays and who goes, or those people selectively go or stay themselves. But if you're going in for the purpose of, I have to meet someone and get married right away, if you're of a certain age group or a certain social class, you might find it a little bit more challenging. But I definitely say have fun with it, go out, and don't date in the geographic limited space. Like if you're in New York, the pool of men here that are single is so small compared to the pool of women who are single. When you're in a big metropolitan city like a New York or a Los Angeles or even maybe a Washington, D.C., it might be different. But if you're in areas that are smaller, it's probably a different experience. So I tell people too, don't just date within your geographic demographic, date all over the place, because I think it's fun to be able to say, oh, I have a person in Philadelphia I want to go see for the weekend, or I want to hop on a plane and go visit a friend who might be in Texas, right? For different things, you get different relationships going. If you're dating because you specifically want to get married, then I would say go on a dating website that you pay for, get a higher caliber, literally, get a higher caliber pool of men to choose from or whomever to choose from, and date with that kind of intention, because those kinds of men or women are going to be probably also paying to meet a certain caliber of person.
Yeah, I think I like what you said. I mean, I'm not a woman, so I wouldn't dare, tell any woman what to think. But when I talk to my daughters who ask my opinion, I just tell them I think that, it's kind of overplayed, this idea of dating for a specific purpose. Like I'm dating you now. I'm going on the first date with you because I'm trying to see if you're a person I might be able to marry. That just, it almost reeks of desperation in a way. It's almost like a man who's like, I don't want to have a conversation with a woman unless I'm gonna get some ass.
Right.
Like that who wants to talk to a man like that? No woman feels comfortable talking to a man like that. And you can smell it, you can sense it.
Yes.
He's staring you down. He's saying, so when am I gonna get to come to your house? And I think that, the best way to get what you want is to try to get some value from the experience along the way. And that's what I tell my girls, like, just get, have a good experience. I mean, don't date whatever the dog drags in, either. But at the same time, ask yourself, okay, if this doesn't end in exactly what I want, meaning marriage or whatever, does that mean it's a waste? So same thing with a man. I think if a man just says, well, look, if I'm talking to a woman and we didn't get down and have sex, then it was a wasted conversation. I feel bad for him because he's not able to see all the value that can come with that interaction that goes beyond the sex. It's okay to want the sex. It's okay to want the marriage, but you can't sort of see it in a one-dimensional framework. That's going to make you crazy.
That's part of the issue that comes up. What I'm hearing from you and your implication is that people are not clear about their intentions, boys. And this is the same thing on the side for women too. I have women that if you ask them what they're looking for, some of them can give you a laundry list of checked off things they want on their list, and others can't give you any one thing that they're looking for. So it's about intentionality. If you are that person that's looking to get married, again, I think you're going to have to either go through probably a dating coach or a dating site, or you're going to have to be a part of a social network club that has people that are in that pool that want to get married. But if you're going into it because you really want to meet people, and if you're in a stage in your life where meeting people is more important than having a long-term committed relationship, then you can meet all kinds of people by going out and dating and putting yourself in different scenarios. You can meet people for lots of different purposes, But if you're like, I got to meet this person because I have to have sex, then go to sex dating websites. There are websites strictly for people who want to have sex with each other. If you want to date someone in another race, there are dating sites specifically for people who want to date of another race or religion. Whatever it is, be clear about it. That's all I'm saying. I don't think it helps anyone coming to the table if one person is looking for one thing and another person doesn't know what they're looking for at all.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. You know what, I just realized I think maybe we should I should have you back at some point, because we got to talk about, I know I'm gonna have you back regardless, but you know, I think just conversations about all of that, I think the whole relationship stuff and you know, how to build healthy relationships, I think is really something the community needs. You know, I think just hearing from people, you know, hearing from two people who are not 25 years old, you know, like neither one of, you know, maybe you're 26, 27, I don't know. You look like you might be 28. You know, and me, I've been 28 for a lot of years now. But in all seriousness, though, you know, I think hearing from people that have had some experiences, I know for a fact that there are people that might watch this conversation and gain from it, because maybe these are things they don't hear from their parents and stuff like that. Because I can tell you, you know, I think that I've known guys that maybe they wanted sex from their relationships, but they didn't want to go, say, to a sex site where, you know, where everybody's just there to have sex, because I think maybe for them that's a cheaper experience or whatever. So I think that's a whole nother discussion, but we'd be talking all night if we jumped into that. But anyway, I'm gonna let you get back to your busy schedule, and I just want to say thank you for taking the time to you know, grace me with your presence. You know, I know you're a busy professional. I know you got a lot going on, and it's awesome that you took the time to have this prolonged discussion with me. Okay, besides Asha Tari Mental, which I want everybody to follow, it's not Terry, it's not Terry, it's Tari. I want you guys to go to Asha Tari Mental. Go right now, click on your Instagram, follow her on Instagram. And besides that, is there anything else, like any website you want people to know about?
Yeah, absolutely. So Asha Tari Mental is on Instagram for people to follow, but I'm also on Twitter under Asha Tari. I'm not on Facebook, but I do have a really important initiative called Black People Heal. And we have a podcast, so they can follow Black People Heal on Facebook, on Instagram, and Twitter as well. And we have some incredible content on our podcast. We have some incredible positive self-affirming imagery, which is really important to me and our team. So Black People Heal is my social justice advocacy work, and the podcast associated with that is really growing. So they should definitely follow Black People Heal on social media, and then look me up on Twitter, on Instagram, and LinkedIn. I communicate a lot more often on Instagram than any other site, but definitely on Twitter too. And then my website is lifecoachasha.com. That'll take them back to the psychotherapy site, but it's the quickest, easiest way to book me. And we have a couple of great things coming down the pike to promote on the lifecoachasha.com website too. So thank you.
Okay.
I appreciate us finally getting together.
Yeah, we've been working on this conversation for the longest, and I know you're so busy. And everybody, so I pinned her Instagram in the Instagram piece. So everybody watching on IG, no excuses for y'all. Go there right now. Follow Asha Tari Mental. I pinned it for you. Also, if you're on Facebook, again, it's TARRY. Just flip over there. You know, support the sister, because you know, this is what we should support. We should support Black women doing great things, but also we should support Black women doing healthy things. And you know, you're near the top of the list, and I have a lot of respect for you. So thank you for your time.
Same. Thank you, boys.
All right. Okay, everybody. Well, we're going to head on out. And don't forget, we actually have a film coming out about Black love and relationships coming out this fall. It's called The Black Love Blueprint. If you want to know more about it, or want to know about our courses on love and money in the Black Business School, how to manage money and relationships, things like that, you can actually go to theblackloveblueprint.com. That's theblackloveblueprint.com. Also, don't forget All Black National Convention, September 27th through 30th. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. You won't regret it. Go to allblacknationalconvention.com and get your discount tickets in advance before the prices go up. That's allblacknationalconvention.com. Make sure you hit the like button, share button, subscribe button, and all that stuff. And the last thing I'm going to throw toward you, Asha, is you mentioned earlier that social media takes a lot of time. It doesn't have to. One thing I noticed, for example, is that you do these running 1-minute videos where you're walking down the street in New York City, you know, and you're talking, the video's just a minute long. To me, that's a good example of how we can knock out social media without it being burdensome. Like this conversation was more, you know, more of a long form interview, but a lot of the social media I do is on the go. If I'm walking through the airport and I ain't doing nothing, I might hop on Facebook Live and talk while I'm walking through the airport. You see what I mean? Or if I'm in the car, I got to drive to Chicago, it's an hour away. I'm in the car and I'm talking while I drive. So I encourage like maybe looking into like multitasking techniques, you know, and then thinking about what you want to say. Like I'll give you one good example. When I was in New York to do, I was going to be on the Breakfast Club to talk about, or it was right when the movie Straight Outta Compton came out with Ice Cube and all that. And I went to see the movie during the day with my daughter. I knew people would want to know what I thought about the movie. Also, from a business and financial standpoint, there were so many talking points about black men and money. So I thought about 3 key points I wanted to make. I was walking from one, literally not even a city block. It was like one of those short blocks. I forgot what they call it. Y'all call them, but it was a short block, and from one light to the next. And I did the video from one block to the next, like it was 2 minutes long max. And I loaded the video online, and that video got probably 300,000 views, right? And that was, you know, and that was just, you know, one example. So I encourage you, like, think of little quick ways like that, and that way you can kind of knock it out without it being like in your here's another little tip. You're smart, and what happens is you're smart, and you know a lot of smart people, and you and other smart people are going to have a lot of smart conversations. One of my rules is I try not to have too many smart conversations in private. If it's a conversation that can be had in public, I'll be like, well, why don't we go live? Why don't we just finish our smart conversation and where everyone can watch, right? Because, you know, what you know as a professional, you take it for granted. But a lot of people, you know, you're smart as a college professor. So people can listen in and really benefit from what you have to say. If you're talking to another therapist, it might seem like no big deal to you guys, but it can be life-changing for the people that are watching you.
Yeah,
so you may want to try
using Zoom or something like that too. Yeah, but we'll definitely come back around to why that conversation needs more discussion.
Okay, good. Well, I look forward to it. I'm gonna check out Black People Heal also. So so God bless you, and again, thank you for your time, and thank you guys for hanging out with us, and we'll see you guys soon.